Hey, GPU prices still suck if that's what you were wondering. Let's keep talking. Hey, I've got to make this video super fast. I needed to leave for work in like 10 minutes. I wasn't going to do a hardware news video this morning until I saw that in addition to all the stuff I saw yesterday about new GPUs and things, we had a whole bunch more this morning. And you know what? Let's just make a video. No editing. We're just going green screen. It's just straight stream of consciousness right to you guys as I process this information and give you my thoughts. However, we will start with just GPU prices. They continue to be terrible, and I don't see that changing. If you're looking for like, is there gonna be some amazing Black Friday deals on GPUs? I mean, maybe we'll see some, but I would expect anything that's even reasonable to sell out instantly, which kind of brings me to the rest of the topic of today's videos. So the latest generation of GPUs, we haven't really seen any launch with even that low of an MSRP. We're seeing the RX 6600 with a $329 MSRP and the RTX 3060 with a $329 MSRP. And that's the bottom of the MSRP tier list when it comes to these current generations of GPUs. But wait a second, those prices aren't even that low, and then we can't even get them at that price. So are we going to get anything cheaper? Well, it's looking like from both Intel and AMD, we are now starting to see tons of info suggesting, yes, there's some lower level entry cards on the way that will have lower MSRPs. We don't have all the details yet, but we have a whole heck of a lot more than we used to. Let's go ahead and jump into some more info. I'm gonna shrink down out of your way a bit. Now, what do we got here? So I've seen a whole bunch of articles at Video Cards and WCCF Tech, and they're being, getting information from a variety of sources. So one of the main topics we're seeing here is the RX 6500 XT and the RX 6400 as being cheaper entry-level cards. These are gonna be worse performing, but also priced lower than the RX 6600. And this is not the only place we've seen this information coming from. So we have one article that's a little more recent where the folks over at Video Cards are saying that they received their own tip directly from a good source that they trust. And I've noticed in the past when Video Cards has made this claim, they generally do have good information. When they say they trust a source, it usually is a trustworthy source, and we end up seeing the information that they're leaking get confirmed. I follow this pretty closely, and this is generally going to be pretty good info. Also, we saw a little bit before that them reporting on a Japanese leaker, Komachi, who basically just confirmed like their existence, the 6500 XT and then the RX 6400. And then it was shortly after this that we then had them coming up with this follow-up article saying that from their own source, they were getting even more details on all of this beyond just that they exist, and some speculation on that. Now, we're also going to be talking about, it's not just AMD launching some new stuff here. We've got Intel, and we already know, Intel's GPUs are coming in, but what are the details? Well, Moore's Law is dead often has good info on GPU launches and leaks. He's accurate a lot of the time. So some of his stuff, though, is a little bit more accurate than others. So there's some stuff that's a little more speculation, right? Can't promise, that type of a thing. So again, Video Cards reporting on Moore's Law is dead here. I'll link everything I talk about here in the description. But it looks like the lower end Intel Alchemist GPUs, the one with the 128 EU leak, it's a leak about the 128 execution unit model. Sorry guys, again, this video, I usually have a little more prep time, and this is one take, no editing, so we'll just roll with it. He's feeling this could probably be a 6 GB card, and he's thinking that it could cost less than $179. Now again, this is a can cost less than, so don't take that as it will cost $179. But what I'm getting at here is we're going to be seeing some lower end entry level models that could have some aggressive price points, which would be interesting. Now, what kind of performance can we expect? Well, Moore's Law seems to be confident that this could at least be close to a 1650 Super and possibly defeat it. And if it could come in there at like that around 200, like a sub $200 price point, well, that's not amazing if you compare it to prices, a year ago. Well, actually now a year ago is when it started to suck. A little over a year ago. God, has it been that long that we've been in this market? It's been kind of terrible lately, guys. Anyway, in this current market, if we actually saw it come in anywhere near a sub $200 price on a card with any kind of reasonable 1080p gaming performance, I think that would actually be welcome in this market, which would be interesting. Okay, now we've also seen some other articles reporting on this, like WCCF Tech, but I'm fairly certain that they have the same source. This is also from Moore's Law is Dead. And then we've also seen WCCF Tech reporting on the pricings, but again, I think their source for this is also the same 3D Center graph that I showed you at the beginning. And again, we see the 6500 XT and the 6400, and from WCCF Tech, it's just this Komachi article. So what I'm trying to get at here is there's a lot of info you can find on this, but it seems like the best info we have on the Intel Arc stuff is originally sourced from that Moore's Law is Dead post, and I've kind of given you the info that we've got on there. He's speculating on the 6 gigabytes based on the specs of the card. He's speculating that that could come in at less than 200, maybe 179 with 1650 Super-like performance as an estimate, not a for sure thing. Okay, so there's the Intel stuff. Let's go ahead and move on to the 6500 XT, where this just kind of was saying, hey, it's probably going to exist, but now we've got the video cards leak with more details. So what other details do they have? I think I'm still kind of in the way. The magic of green screen. Except look, guys, look how not set up I am. My green screen is not even in the right spot. Okay. I have fixed the folds in reality. We have now repaired the digital space that I'm living in. Okay, so what do we have here? So the 6500 XT is supposed to be the full implementation of the Navi 24 GPU. So if you don't understand these naming schemes, we have like the highest end Navi 21. That's like your 6900 XT as the full version of it, and then we have cut down versions of it. Then you have the Navi 22 and 23, getting us the mid tiers and the lower tier cards that we have, and then the Navi 24 is one that we have not seen cards from yet. Okay, so Navi 24 we have not seen graphics cards coming from yet, and that's what this would be, and the full version of it is the 6500 XT, and that would come in with 16 compute units and making 1024 stream processors. And this one will require dedicated power and only a 400 watt power supply recommendation. And they do not know the base or boost frequencies and all this, but they're claiming to understand that the memory speed will be 14 gigabits per second, which is, I believe, equivalent, and they're saying it is as well, to the 6600 non-XT. By the way, I've tested out that 6600, and I understand people were upset at its MSRP, but guys, we're living in a market where MSRP is kind of meaningless anyway. And the 6600 has been giving me really good performance at 1080p, and even solid at 1440p in a lot of games, especially if you're willing to not play on Ultra. Anyway, that's just a bit of a side note. Now, they're claiming this is going to be a 4 gigabyte card. Okay, across a 64-bit bus, giving it a memory bandwidth of 112 gigabytes per second. Now let's talk about this for a second. So what do I think about that? So 4 gigabytes is not a lot these days. However, one of the factors, although not, I don't think the main factor, one of the factors in GPU pricing right now is that components like memory are more expensive. So shipping with 4 gigabytes of it could help rein in costs. Maybe we really are going to get this thing at the lowest price possible. Now, is 4 gigabytes still enough these days? Even at 1080p, if you're playing on ultra settings, there are games that are wanting more than 4 gigabytes. However, given that the RX 6600 in those more demanding ultra setting 1080p games is only getting you about 60 FPS at those maxed out ultra settings, to me this actually could sort of make sense, because in those more demanding games, if you're not getting 6600 performance, which is how you're getting the 60 FPS at ultra, you would need to turn down settings a bit anyway to get 60 FPS, in which case you probably don't need a full like 8 gigabytes of VRAM. Now 4 is still a little bit low, guys. 4 is a little bit low. I don't like the 4, but if it brings the price way down, then you certainly can play games at reduced settings where 4 gigabytes can still get the job done. I don't like it though. I don't like it. Okay, now let's talk about the 6400. So again, this is based on the Navi 24 GPU, but this is how it always works. You get multiple GPUs, right, configuration SKUs off of the same like chip, right? So we have the Navi 24 chip, and if it's all working out, we get this 6500 XT. But if only 12 of the 16 compute units are enabled, then that gives us 768 stream processors, and this would no longer be a 6500 XT. They would market it as an RX 6400. Now, this would also mean that it looks like they're targeting the 4 gigabytes, which same thoughts repeat, but although like the further lower you are in performance, the less VRAM I think you actually need, just because you're gonna be turning down settings anyway, except I do have one more thought. The one setting that can make a huge visual impact without a lot of impact on performance is textures. So a lot of games have some pretty high-res textures now, so it would be really unfortunate if you had to turn textures down with those 4 gigabytes. I'm hoping that games can deliver at least full textures and then maybe low settings at 4 gigabytes, but I don't know. I don't have a 4 gigabyte card to test that on. My lowest end card is the 6 gigabyte 1060. So I'm not sure where modern games are at with that right now, to be honest. What do you guys think about 4 gigabytes in the comment section? Definitely let me know. Anyway, so I hate it less on the 6400 than I do on the 6500 XT. Anyway, so it still has the 4 gigabytes and the 64 gigabyte bus, but it's looking like this one will not require a separate power connector. Now that's kind of cool. And that also means that it's gonna have to be around a 75 watt total board power to be able to get the power from the PCIe slot rather than from a dedicated pin. And to me, that is what makes this card interesting, because there are certain builds where you just can't get a dedicated power thing in there based on the build you're trying to do, or if you're upgrading like a pre-built where you just don't have a power supply that can give you another pin, give you the little pin connector thing. You know what I mean, guys? It's early in the morning. Like I said, I gotta leave for work. We're gonna have to wrap this thing up. But anyway, I like the idea of this not requiring a separate power connector. That might give this GPU an actual use in some interesting situations. Anyway, so the one kind of interesting thing here is that, well, these are actually gonna be worse than a lot of older AMD GPUs if you just look at the total specs and gaming performance and even the VRAM, because if you have like an old RX 580 with 8 gigabytes, like, you know, why would you wanna go down to 4 gigabytes? You see what I mean? But these do have ray accelerators. However, at this performance tier, I'm not sure the ray accelerators make a whole lot of sense. Although, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure those are gonna be useful to you, but since on the Navi architecture, each compute unit comes with the ray accelerator, so you got 16 compute units, you got 16 ray accelerators, you've got 12 compute units, you've got 12 ray accelerators. So hey, we do have some ray tracing ability. It will be kind of interesting if there's any ray tracing settings where that's actually reasonable to do on these cards. I have my doubts. Now, when are these gonna come out? Again, according to this source, so this is not straight from AMD, but they're saying first quarter of 2022, with the 6500 XT coming in first. Okay, so so these might be reasonable, like medium setting 1080p gaming cards, and the only thing that's gonna make these interesting is if their MSRP and actual price that you can find them on the market is low. And also if they come with enough supply for people to actually grab them. All right, and if you stack them up, they've got a nice little chart here if you stack them up against these. So, and it looks like the, many thanks to Disclose You Zen. Apparently that's video card source. So they're claiming they're very reliable. Great. Let's see. So what kind of performance would we expect from these? Well, as you can see, if you just look at the compute units, like we don't know, like there's a lot of details that go into gaming performance. It's not just as simple as the number of cores, right? But that is a big factor in it. And if we compare it to the RX 6600, which has 1,792, the 6500 XT is getting cut down all the way to 1,024, and we're going down to 768 on the 6400. So we're seeing major cuts, right? So that these will be significantly less powerful than an RX 6600, although like I say, other details will go in there. We don't know what kind of clock speeds they can run at. All right, so if this is all true, I'm interested. I like to see lower priced cards coming in the market. The 4 gigabytes is less than I would like to see, but if their performance is this low, you'd be turning down settings anyway. I don't know. I've got to get to work. I hope all of you have an excellent day.